Okay, so for this test, we have a graphing question. This is the last question on the review worksheet. The graphing question seems to be a problem for many students still. Only a small group of students actually mastered the skill of graphing. So before I start, I would like to invite you to make the following graphs first, so that you can actually get a good hang of things. For the first graph that I would like to go through here, it's y is equal to square root of x. Okay. This one, it's if you graph this one, it starts from the origin and it goes like this. Okay, it goes like this. And there's a point right here, which is 1, 1. Okay. And then it should be 4, 2. Okay, so now one thing I do want to say very clearly is that a graph is a reflection of the values. The graph are just telling you the values of the function in a more visual way. You cannot force yourself to memorize the shape of the graph. If you have the shape of the graph in your mind, it must go with the idea of that you have to look at some values. So for this particular question, you may actually make a list of values, make a table to graph it, but you can also just know the shape of the graph because you know the values, and then you just go ahead do the transformation. So we have this one, square root of x, and then the other one that I want you to graph, it's y equals to the step function of x. Okay. Now let me address one misconception that I've seen from people, is that some of you may mistaken this step function as the absolute value function. Nope, they are not the same thing. They are two totally different things. Step function is that you have the you have this. It goes in steps like this. Okay. Okay, so we learned that pretty early in the first few weeks of school. Okay, and for the parent function, y equals to step function of x. So what we're saying is that whenever that you have a fraction or a value that's in between the two integers, for the x value, the corresponding y value would be the previous integer. So for example, if I have the step function of 1.5, it will go back to the previous integer, which is 1. If I have a number that's negative 3.4, okay, I just come up with these random numbers, negative 3.4, it will go to the previous integer, which is negative 4. Okay, previous integer. So if you have a number line, that may actually help you visualize the fact that the negative 3.4, it's right here, somewhere right there. So you go back to the previous integer. Okay. The idea is that what I illustrated in class was that for steps, okay, you can have the first step, second step. There's no such thing as the 1.5 step. So if you raise your foot 1.5 steps higher and you step down, you will step on the first step rather than something called the 1.5 step. There's no such thing as 1.5 step in the staircase. Okay. So now, my way of showing you the graphing, my way of showing you the graph is that I'm going to use transformation to tell the graphing. Okay. So right here, we will have the square root function. It's x minus 3. that means it is moving to the right by 3 units. Okay. So we have this right here. I've seen some students giving me a parabola instead, which it's quite puzzling. So that's one thing you can do. Now, if you say you don't know the graph, then I would give you an advice. I would give you an advice. Okay. The advice is this. What number do you want to see underneath the square root? I would say that I would love to see square root of 0 because that's equal to 0. I would love to see square root of 1 because that's equal to 1. I would love to see the square root of 4 because that's equal to 2. So the question now is, how do you get these numbers, okay, to show up underneath the square root when the function is x minus square root of x minus 3, okay? And again, this is a piecewise function, so we are only graphing the portion that its x is greater than 3. So we will say, well, so this is square root of x minus 3, right? So to get 0, x got to be 3. Okay. To get 1, then x better be 4. Then y is equal to 1. To get a 4 underneath the square root, then the x better be 7. Then you have a y value of 2. So if you know what you like to see, then you can kind of reverse engineer the numbers. You can find out what x values would please you, would make your life easy, and then you're just going to plot the points. Okay, so you can do it in a more traditional way, that you know the shape of the graph and then you do the transformation, or you can use a little bit of a street smart. Okay, you know what numbers you want to see. Oh, you want to see square root of 0. Okay, then make it happen. How can you make square root of 0? Oh, x is equal to 3. Then you have square root of 0. All right, good. 3 comma 0. Okay, you want to see square root of 1. Okay, good. Go ahead, make it happen. How? X is equal to 4. 4 minus 3 is 1. So you have square root of 1. So you have 4 comma 1 as the point, and so forth. Okay. Now, then the next piece, it's going to be this one. Now, just this one. This is just 2. F of x is equal to 2, or simply y is equal to 2. And we're going to graph this for the portion of -2 to 3 for the x value. So we say, all right, from -2 to 3, right there. Okay, cannot be simpler. But if you don't even know how to interpret the constant 2 as in just a horizontal line, then it's kind of challenging. Okay, so please make sure that you know y equals to 2 or f of x equals to 2 is just a horizontal line that it's at the function value of 2 or y value of 2. Okay. All right. Now, so what about the step function? The step function tends to give people the most trouble. Okay. So we'll say, all right. So how would you do the step function? How can you easily do the step function right here? Now, the best way to think about this is, well, let's go ahead, think of some values, since we say, oh, well, you are going to do the portion that it's x less than -2. So that means for this portion and on to the left, we're going to do the step function. So, well, you can come up with the value. Let's just say maybe x equals to -2.1. Okay, if x is equal to -2.1 plus 1, you would get, sorry, step function, not absolute value, my bad. Step function of -1.1. Okay, and what's the step function of 1.1? That's equal to -2. It's the previous, okay, step function of 1.1, it's -2. So that means between -3 to -2, we're going to have this step right here. Okay, and if you know how to make this step happen, then you're just going to replicate the other steps. like this, and make sure that you complete the remaining part of the graph with these steps. Okay. Now, if you say, I want to check, I want to double check. Okay, I want to double check if I'm getting it right. So I would suggest you to just pick a random number to the left of it, So let's just say right here, it is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, negative, say negative 5.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, no, I'm sorry, my bad. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. Let's just say x is equal to negative 4.5. Okay. Negative 4.5 plus 1. And you have negative 3.5 inside the step function. And then you go to the previous integer. So you have negative 4. So we say, do I get negative 4? Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. Yes. My step is right at negative 4, the function value of negative 4. So in that case, you've got it. Okay. You have the value here. Okay. You have got the correct step function drawn on the picture, on the graphing on the graphing area, on the graph paper. Okay. So just make sure that you know how to verify. I think many students got this question wrong because they have no idea how to verify their own results, and that's why they keep getting stuck right here. Okay, so yeah, please make sure that you are in good shape of all these graphing. Feel free to play with it using Desmos or your graphing calculator. It's not that hard, but it's very important that you understand how to make these graphs. It will show up every now and then. We're going to see more graphs in this course. We're going to see rational equations. We're going to see what else? Trig functions in the later part of the later half of the first semester, and we would talk about exponential function, logarithmic functions. Okay, so these are going to show up in the very near future. So please do pay attention. Put some effort into the understanding of the shape of the graph. Again, the reason why the graphs will show up like this is all because of the function value. So you want to make sure that you understand how the function value occurs, how they show up, and then you have the correct graph. Okay, so that's pretty much it.